The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. All right. Welcome back to the Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stupperidge.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
And, we're going to talk some NBA right now to close out the show. And there was a very interesting billboard on the corner. I think you said, it was Racine and Lake.
The corner of Racine and Lake, a big billboard that said, "We are no longer seeing red. Fire Gar packs." And
yes, hashtag Fire Gar packs.
And the funny thing about that is there was a GoFundMe page among Bulls fans to get the money to put this billboard up, and it raised over $8,000. So they were able to put in a big billboard in a populated area. I mean, I really don't know what more Bulls fans can do to say they've had it. Because I remember Gar said in the end of season press conference, he said, after the Jimmy Butler trade, Gar said fans voiced their concerns and voiced that they wanted a new direction and to go into a rebuild. And I was thinking, yeah, except that new direction, these fans want it to be without you.
Right, exactly. So, Fred Hoiberg, we talked about this earlier. Fred Hoiberg is the right guy if you're going in for a rebuild. like he's the right guy for that. But if they get good again in, let's say, 4 years, 5 years, something like that, you kind of got to cut him loose. Like, I don't want to see any Fred Hoiberg extensions coming. Like that's a little shady.
If Gar's around, it's going to happen. He might even offer him a raise because they're good friends.
I know. The thing that just floors me about the whole thing is they were in cahoots, John Paxson, Gar Forman, and Fred Hoiberg.
I think it was more Gar and Fred. I don't know.
Well, the 2015 playoffs hadn't ended, and they already had it. They were, even if Tom Thibodeau made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, which they really could have in 2015 and probably should have.
I'm sure if they won the NBA title, they would have fired him anyways. Because
with the healthy Derrick Rose, because
wasn't their mind was made up the year prior that they were going to fire him at the end of that season.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what really kind of irks me. It's like
you determined that you're going to fire your coach, even though it's the biggest 5-year success the Bulls franchise has had since the Jordan era.
Right. I mean, it was unbelievable. But with that said, Jimmy Butler's gone, and
the fans are voicing their opinion. I'm sure
they are not going to sell out this year.
Yeah, I'm sure
there's no way.
Some empty seats at games this year. Maybe fans might even start chanting, "Fire Gar." They were chanting "Fire Hoiberg" at the end of the Celtics Game 6.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, what do the fans expect? I mean, we're rebuilding now, so it's like, what do you expect? I mean, you're not going to be mad.
Yeah, you're not going to fire your general manager the year after his rebuild starts. So.
No, and as long as LeBron's in Cleveland and not on the West Coast, which he could be, it's possible. As long as that happens, you're not beating Cleveland, you're not beating Boston. There's teams that you can't compete with. So that's why, it was the right thing to do as far as rebuilding. And they did get some good pieces back. Zach LaVine, I really like him.
Right, and Chris Dunn, if he's developed properly, which we have to trust Hoiberg in, who knows if that'll happen.
I know, he refused to play Cameron Payne, and now Payne is your starting point guard.
No, I think it's going to be done.
Do you think it's going to be done?
I think it's going to be done.
Did Dunn come off? Now, Dunn came off the bench in Minnesota.
As a rookie, he did.
Okay. I didn't know if...
This is his second year.
I know Rubio was hurt all year, and he's gone now. But
I think that, by the way, speaking of Rubio, Thibodeau was able to get a first-round pick for him in his horrible contract.
I know. Thibodeau magic, man.
All right, so anyways, I think Dunn's going to be... I think it's, it's all up for debate, or maybe... LaVine will be the starting point guard, or maybe he'll be the starting shooting guard. I think nothing is really set in stone yet. Until training camp, it's going to be a fight. And
I love the draft pick of Lauri Markkanen. I remember
you were all hoping they would try to trade up to get him, and that's before they traded Butler to get that pick to select him.
Because I watch college basketball more than the NBA. I usually do, unless it's a Bulls game. But now I'll definitely be watching more college basketball than Bulls basketball. That's for sure. He's a really good player. He's got a great coach at Arizona. So, I mean, that was step one right there. He's a big man who can shoot threes, which you don't find very often.
And the Bulls need 3-point shooting.
Desperately.
So, I mean, as badly as the fans want Gar and John Paxson gone, which, I mean, I think John Paxson could be around, for the long run. I think he's a smart guy. And you don't fire a GM a year into a rebuild. And another thing is, if Gar hasn't been fired by now, he's not going to be fired, until it looks like the rebuild is going nowhere.
True.
So you're not, he would have been fired after Hoiberg's first year if they were going to fire him.
Right.
Which I don't think they will. Unless him and Paxson have like a big disagreement, it'll be both of them for the foreseeable future. And I guess the thing is though, as Bulls fans, it's like some of them are drinking poison and expecting both of them to get fired. It's like they want them to be bad just so that they want the rebuild to be a failure just so that they're gone. And, while, Gar has proven that maybe made a lot of questionable moves, contradicted himself, and lied to players and fans. And so, you got to hope that, the rebuild goes well, and maybe they're competing sooner, because otherwise this is going to be a long while before the Bulls are good.
All right, before we get up on out of here, we're just going to take a look at the NBA free agent market right now. Just a couple things mentioned. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signed with the Lakers on a 1-year deal. They're starting to get some things together, and they could be good.
Lonzo Ball won the Summer League MVP.
He did.
Did you see after his game the first game when he went 2 for 15, that his dad still said he played one of his best games, and that he was so good he kept them in the game?
I try not to pay attention to him, but yes, I heard something about that.
Yeah, he said that Lonzo still played so good that he kept the team in the game, and he after that game he played really well. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to the NBA.
Yeah, Vince Carter signed a 1-year deal with Sacramento. So he's there. He's
still around. He's still hanging in there.
Him and Dirk are the two oldest in the NBA now. They're both from the 98 draft.
Probably a more of a well-known signing is J.J. Redick getting a 1-year, $23 million deal to the 76ers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty interesting. Mike Dunleavy is a free agent.
Oh, wow.
in case you're wondering.
And I know, Ryan, as you said, that whole Clippers thing blew up pretty quick.
It blew up. Boom, kaboom.
Redick's gone. Crawford's
Only thing
gone.
left is Blake Griffin.
Chris Paul is gone. They still got DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, they do. Pau Gasol's a free agent. I wonder if he'll re-sign with the Spurs.
I think he opted out. He had a 2-year deal with an opt-out, and I think he just opted out and is going to re-sign with the Spurs.
Rudy Gay goes to the Spurs. That's pretty interesting. Maybe he can be better as a little swingman and not have so much pressure.
He'll have a little more depth behind Leonard if he gets hurt again, because he can slide in at the 3.
Yeah. Just going down the list here.
Paul George was traded.
I
couldn't believe the return the Pacers got. Like, all Oklahoma City had to give up was Victor Oladipo. But it was like the main headline of a 2-player package for Paul George.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it helps, in Oklahoma City's favor that he was on an expiring deal. He only had 1 year left on his deal, which is why it was smart of the Bulls front office to identify they needed to trade Jimmy Butler now while you could get maybe more for him, because he's got a couple years left on his deal before his player option.
Right. And, of course, the other news was Chris Paul is now with the Spurs.
The Rockets.
Or Rockets. I'm getting confused with the Texas teams. Yes.
And the thing is,
Spurs aren't that good.
And the thing is, the Rockets could be pretty good. We know James Harden just got that $228 million extension over 4 years. They got Chris Paul. They're reportedly trying to get Carmelo Anthony now.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to get Anthony, but that would be.
I don't think they don't have the young pieces that New York would want in return. Except they could be better now that Harden's got Harden and Paul together. So we'll see how it goes. A lot of teams are either identifying they either need to get a big three to try to compete with Golden State, or it's time to rebuild. That's pretty much how they're all thinking now.
Yeah. All right, thank you for joining us on this short show tonight. We'll be back next week for a full show, and we'll be talking hopefully about the Cubs' continuing winning streak.
Hopefully the Cubs will be in first place by then, because I think by this time next week they'll be going into their big 3-game weekend.
I think there's a good chance.
In Milwaukee.
Absolutely. Have a good night. We'll talk to you next week. I'm Ryan Stepperidge.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
We'll see you then. The Sports Renegades Podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.